Okay, so the plan for tonight will be, as you guys know, you have Bernardo Silva, who oversees the ECNL girls side, and is the associate head coach on the women's side at Sac State. You have Matt McDougall, who coaches the 04 and 05 boys ECNL team and coached the oldest age group last year. He's the associate men's coach at Sac State. And then I don't know if everybody knows, but you got JJ Wozniak, who's over here, and he didn't get the memo to wear blue today. He's wearing gray because he's the new guy. But JJ has been a head coach at a lot of different levels. He was at UNLV as the assistant coach last year, and now he's at University Pacific as the women's assistant coach there, and obviously is working with us at the club. So you have three pretty good options that are very, very well versed in the recruiting landscape, and ultimately the aim for tonight is to talk about how to navigate what's going on currently. So I think Bernardo, Doogie, and JJ take the lead. I'm going to sit back and listen and learn, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for joining in. We're gonna start, to share a couple of slides with you guys. Some of you might have seen the slides before. There's a couple of 3 or 4 slides just to kind of give you guys an update on where things are at with NCAA and college soccer right now, and a lot of the decisions that are being made behind the scenes, because I think it's always good for you guys to all have that perspective as you continue to go and navigate your own individual process in it. I would, I think Matt just sent a text on the group chat here for you guys. If you have questions, and I would say that a lot of you have questions all the time, and you kind of, you ask them between you guys and you come individually to us as coaches. If you have questions, there's no bad questions when it comes to this process. Okay, so if you have a question, I would highly recommend you writing it down, jotting it down while we're talking through these slides real quick, or if you already have questions going into it, that you ask them today. It doesn't have to be specifically to, the current time, but anything that you have is important. And if you are listening in and you've heard the information, there's nothing like hearing it twice or 3 times, because you can always learn from different people. So that I just wanted to make sure that you can send them on the group chat here. If you feel comfortable, if you feel more comfortable just unmuting yourself, we can potentially do that as well. But we have 127 people here, so the group chat is probably the easiest way. I'm going to share my screen. We'll get it rolling, and then Coach JJ and Coach Matt McDougall are going to chime in as we go through the slides as well. And the plan is, like I said, we'll go through a couple of slides, and then we're going to go into a Q&A forum, which we think is going to be even more valuable than potentially some of the slides. But just to kind of set the perspective of things, of where things are at the moment. Obviously, the NCAA, season has been, a lot of them have been pushed to the spring. And there's a couple of, on the boys' side, I believe there's only one, right, Doogie, with ACC.
Right.
On the women's side, there's a couple more than just one that have pushed to the spring season, which obviously typically college soccer happens in the fall, which will be happening right now. So that's something that's just an update for you guys to be aware, for those that would potentially be looking for college soccer games happening right now. There's only a few conferences that are happening. And I know on the girls' side, the ACC, is it the Big 12 or is it the Big 10? Big 12, JJ?
Yeah, Big 12 and SEC.
SEC, yeah, the Big 12, the SEC, and I believe the Sun Belt too, correct? Sun Belt Conference, I believe. So those are 3 conferences. Primarily have a lot of schools in the Midwest, East Coast, Midwest, so not a lot of West Coast schools. But and on the boys' side is the ACC. This is kind of an eligibility update that kind of affects all of you guys directly, especially the ones that are seniors in high school, the ones that are juniors in high school, and potentially a little bit of the sophomore class as well, but a little bit less for them. The NCAA has recently gave the year back to the senior class. So if you guys think about this, the senior class that was currently coming into Sacramento State, has been told that this year does not count, meaning that they could come back for another year after, so fall 2021 would still be an available eligibility year for players that would be interested in doing that stuff. How would that affect all of you guys, is obviously there would be money Like, let's suppose we have a senior at Sacramento State, that is on a 50% scholarship, right? That money that was originally planned to be available for a potential senior in high school that's graduating, right, is now maybe not available because the coach and the player have decided that we want to bring that player back again for another year. So obviously there's a direct effect on the 2021 class. Potentially that could also affect the 2022 class, because this year really it's almost like a year that doesn't count. So that's just something for us to be aware. We're going to dive in a little bit more. I'll let Coach Matt and Coach JJ chime in on that, but that's just something that's an update, and we can answer more questions on that. So right now, this is a critical time period for college coaches. I was actually having an offline conversation with Coach Matt McDougall about his stuff that he's going through at Sac State on the men's side, and I'm sure Coach JJ is doing the same thing at University of the Pacific. There's a lot of meetings and conversations happening between the coaching staff, and senior players to figure out which players are interested in coming back. How does that affect the athletic scholarship money that's going to be available potentially for the 2021 class and the 2022 class? And obviously these discussions, because it's a new layer that's now being talked about, it could potentially delay decisions for some of you that were having these conversations with coaches. So if all of a sudden you're hitting a stall of the 2020 of your conversations, it could potentially mean that, okay, these coaches are just trying to figure their situation out, and then they'll get back to me. So it's important that obviously that you are aware of the perspective of the coach, of the college coach, so that you don't think, oh, they're just stalling because they've given up on me, or are not interested anymore. Maybe sometimes it's not that, is that there's other things happening. So it's important to get clarity on that. And so that you're aware, it's even better. Anything on this, JJ, Doogie?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you got to be patient with the process. And it's easy to say sitting here and already have gone through it in a whole different perspective and light. But you need to make sure, like Bernardo said, there's a lot of things going on out there with scholarship money eligibility and all the conversations going on. When you reach out to coaches, which Bernardo will go over in a second, make sure you reference this type of stuff. Hey, I know it's a little bit different year. I know that, there's an extension of a senior's, possible roster spot and scholarship. What does that mean for the incoming class? And see if the coaches give you a little bit of information. So, but other than that, just stay focused, stay driven on it. And we'll get talking here in just a little bit about what you can do about that.
Awesome. JJ, anything? Good to go? Okay. And again, write down your questions on the chat if you have any questions about this stuff, okay? So no bad questions. Couple of things, and I think these things we've mentioned to you guys, in several different conversations, potential meetings and stuff like that. I think we've done a good job of kind of alerting people of these dead periods. Obviously, just to make sure that we're very clear on what a dead period is, okay? Dead period basically means that college coaches cannot go out and recruit players, in events. So if there was a showcase event, for example, that was happening September 1st, Division I college coaches would not be able to go to that event to go recruiting. The dead period also affects visits, bringing people on campus as well. So all the visits right now have to happen. You have to do it on your own. You could not contact a coach and be able to go on a visit with some sort of tour. That stuff is also kind of tied into this dead period. And obviously with the different divisions, you have different kind of restrictions on that. Obviously the Division II, they've already began recruiting September 1st. Division I's are the only ones that they're waiting for that period to get cleared, so that starting October 1st, they could start kind of, getting back into recruiting. And that's assuming, I don't know, Doogie, if you've heard differently, or JJ, if you've heard differently, but that there's no discussion right now for that dead period to be extended, or there is still?
So I just got off a compliance meeting this morning, and it looks like it will be extended another month is their prediction, but it's not been stated yet by the NCAA. The other thing off of this slide I want to quickly mention, I have a colleague that's a Division II coach at Chico State. They are obviously open to recruit, but their school individually is not allowing them to go out and recruit because of COVID restrictions, cost of it with budget and stuff going on right now. So each individual school has other restrictions in place. That's why Bernardo put that there, that, yeah, they're open to recruit and go watch games, but sometimes they're not able to because of budget crunches and stuff going to budget this time of year. So everybody's in a different boat. Just talk about your communication when you have the ability to get out to games and out of the state to play, let them know. But everyone's in a different boat.
Yeah, that's awesome. So again, we'll keep you guys informed if it does get extended again for Division I schools, and it seems like it will be according to what Coach Matt was talking about. So, but we'll keep you guys informed of that. And then Division III and NAIA, they have no restrictions in place, and this is important so that you guys know, depending on the school that you're talking with, you can kind of understand the position that they're in, and then plan accordingly in terms of your communication and stuff. So the other thing that that is important for obviously, this just kind of got added here, is it doesn't really pertain to this top thing, but seniors being prepared to apply for all the universities that you're interested in. That's going to be starting up here in October, November, so it's coming up quickly. So just be prepared for that, and let us know if we can help in any way, shape, or form on that too. So
my last piece with this is, you've talked with some of your coaches possibly about narrowing down your searches for colleges. This is an opportunity right now to cast your net even wider, because we don't know where opportunities lie. So do not narrow yourself down to just all Division I schools. You want to cast your net wide, see if there's any traction out there from any other universities, coaches, and then you can start to make decisions. But if you narrow everything down to a couple schools and they're having seniors return or other issues in the recruiting process, you're going to limit yourself and maybe not have an opportunity. So you need to make sure you cast that net wider and reach out to multiple universities at different levels.
And I think, for the 21s, for the 22s, and even for the 23s, but I think on the girls' side, one thing that I've often used is there's what we call REACH schools, REACH, schools that obviously maybe a lot of people your age would like to attend. And then there's maybe realistic schools, schools that you're like, what, I can definitely play soccer there. I really feel like that I can still connect with the school properly. It doesn't mean that you can't think about the REACH schools, but I think it's important to have a balance, kind of to Coach Matt's point, is have a good balance of the number of REACH schools and number of realistic schools. And especially because of all these updates that we're going to give you today, I think that becomes even more important. So expanding your list is definitely important, but try to have a good balance of that. And sometimes a realistic school could be a really great Division II program that that plays a really good brand, or you've seen them play, and it has your major. So don't get wrapped up into the Division I, Division II, Division III, so on and so forth, because there's a place for everybody, even obviously NAIA and junior college as well. So I think this is a critical slide for you all, and I think we're going to give an example of kind of what does this mean in action? What does it mean to stay relevant? It's really, really important that you guys right now, take advantage of the time that you have in your hands on the weekends. Obviously, we're not traveling for games as much. We're not showcases. We're kind of out of the rat race and that we're typically in at this time of the year already. But there's a lot of stuff that you could be doing. And if you have questions about what you could be doing, make sure that you reach out to us, right? I've had a few conversations even this week about players that are getting some emails from college coaches, and I've helped them. I've told them, hey, send me your draft email of a reply to the coach of, I've tried to look at highlight videos and give them feedback on that stuff. So utilize us as resources, but you got to put in the work, right? So you need to stay relevant at this time, because obviously coaches right now, they have a lot of time in their hands. They're not in season, most of them, so you got to stay relevant. And so even when obviously the structure of the games, the showcases, and obviously all the stuff that happens with the dead periods that you don't really have control over, we talk a lot about updating the college coaches, and the colleges of your interest, at least one every 2 months. And whether that's a new highlight video, whether that's just checking in, and like Coach Matt was talking about potentially just checking in and being like, hey, coaches, I'm aware that there's a lot of stuff happening in terms of eligibility. Checking in on a coach, it kind of shows how connected you are to the whole process. So it doesn't just have to be, oh, I gotta have a new highlight video for that coach. No, it could be just a regular check-in, right? An update on your training. Obviously, we're hoping here that things start speeding up for us in terms of our training, and soon enough we're going to be able to provide some other stuff at training, in terms of bigger sided games and whatever that looks like. So any update that you think is relevant could be a good opportunity for you to add to these emails that you send to coaches. Again, always making sure that you introduce yourself, always making sure that you put San Juan, that you put your jersey number, that you put your graduate year. You always have to add that, and always add maybe one or two, whether that's your head coach and potentially, Coach Matt McDougall or Coach Matt Bernard or myself as a reference in the bottom. I think all those things are important regardless of the email that you're sending. But there's just something for you guys to give you some ability to be relevant at this point. And I'm going to explain what this looks like in just a little bit, but the last thing is this. Obviously, college coaches are on their emails a lot and have time to read emails and watch highlight film and game film probably more than ever, right? And I know, Coach JJ, I was talking to you, and I think you said something the other day that I thought was when we were kind of preparing this presentation. You talked about, something just popping up and you clicked on it and you started reading it, and you just have more time to read emails and watch highlights. Is that accurate on your end?
I know for sure. And I think, just as a staff, so, all the players on this call, right, or on this Zoom, as a staff, we got together, and I think consensus is that we're hearing a little bit that the number of emails and contacts across the country is down a little bit. And so it's really important to just stay relevant, and, whether it's discouragement, a little deflated, right? I mean, I know we're all tied up in this together, and we've been limited with what we can do. I think Bernardo and I know Matt would agree with this, and what they've been showing on the slides is that college coaches have so much time right now. Like we're willing, we want to get the emails, we want to get the messages, right? There's some kids, just even at the program I'm with, that have kind of gotten on the radar just by the number of times they've reached out, right? So try to do all you can to turn, frustration into, a positive, into something positive, right? Where, where you can make sure that you're getting information out about you consistently. And so whenever it is, we're back. But I'm telling you, some of you guys could get opportunities just by more communication right now during this time. So.
Absolutely. One thing I wanted to share real quick so you guys can see what that looks like. We actually have I'm going to share the profile of a player on YouTube. I asked her permission for this, so thank you, Izzy. Izzy plays on our 04 ECNL team on the girls' side, and she actually, she basically put together a channel, right, on YouTube. And it's just an idea, right, for all of you guys. She's a goalkeeper, but you can kind of see here that she is starting. This is the way she's kind of updating coaches is, obviously she has a highlight video. She has actually 2 highlight videos. I think they're potentially, one has 49 views, one has 27. So these are all 5 months ago. But then she did some stuff with shot stopping. She has some individual things right here. And then she has a physical therapy workout as well. And so again, when a college coach, if you include this on the bottom of your email, on your signature, you say, check out, my updated channel. Like here's, I include, and you would have a physical therapy workout. Not that the coach has to watch your whole physical therapy workout, but this surely seems organized. It seems like it shows that this player cares about what she's doing. She's taking care of her own individual development. She's making the best out of the situation, right? So for all of you guys right now, because I know one of the questions on the chat, and we'll tackle that in a little bit, is what do I include in my highlight video? You can leave your highlight video that's already in place. Just let it be. But a lot of you are pretty tech savvy, so filming yourself in an individual training, asking your mom or your dad to do it, or your brother or your sister to film you yourself, and including that as an individual training, or you go to a physical therapy workout and you bring out your camera and you can film that. I mean, all these things become valuable for your channel that you can potentially create. And this is an idea, is a YouTube channel. I know social media, Twitter, some of you are on Twitter and potentially could include some stuff on Twitter as well. I know a lot of college coaches use Twitter, so you can tag coaches through that. So there's different ways for you to kind of stay relevant, not just via email, which everybody's doing emails, obviously, but then adding a little bit of a different look with a YouTube channel. And it's pretty easy to do a YouTube channel. I mean, Izzy, I'm going to ask you here to chime in on that, how easy this was to create. But I know there's a few players on our girls program that have started this, and maybe some boys have already done this as well. But yeah, Izzy, can you chime in? Can you unmute yourself, Izzy, and chime in how you put?
Yeah, sure. So I pretty much just made an email account specifically for soccer and recruiting. And then with that email, I made my YouTube channel. And then I just use the app on my phone, iMovie, to make the videos and then upload them. And yeah, that's pretty much all I do.
Awesome. Awesome, fantastic. So instead of, you don't have to hire somebody to film yourself. You can do all that stuff, and obviously there's different people in the club that can help you and share resources and share, Easy can definitely be a resource for some of you. And I know there's other players that have done this before as well. So, so that's just an example, right, of things that you can do. So again, needing to stay relevant, okay, is critical at this point, okay?
Bernardo, right off of that,
Yeah.
we talked about social media, all right? Social media is massive these days, between whatever, Snapchat to Twitter to Instagram, and coaches can end up following you. Coaches can't end up writing anything on your social media. They can click, but they can't type, basically, is kind of the 411 for college coaches. Off of that, you got to be very careful what you're putting on social media. All right. What kind of player, what type of person, what type of stuff are you following or portraying on there? And I'm not one to judge good, bad, and different, because every coach, looks at things differently. But you need to make sure that you're showing the best version of yourself. Okay. No matter what you post, no matter what you like, because coaches will end up following you. And then if there's something that doesn't blend with their philosophy or how a coach sees things, it could turn them away. I'm not saying it will, but it could. So every coach, we like to follow our players or people that we're recruiting on social media so that we can get to know you, because we don't coach you day in and day out. Some of the coaches and the colleges, obviously, they don't coach you day in and day out. So in order to get to know you these days, they follow you on the social media. And then they also rely on us competitive soccer coaches to, word of mouth on how you are as a player, both on the field and your character off the field. And it's not just necessarily how you're doing in games. It's how you prepare yourself for training. Are you on time? Are you diligent in whatever you do? Your communication skills, that stuff, because we need to make sure when we're sending you to a college coach, that we're putting our word behind you and we're helping sell you, but you need to be doing it on your end as well. So social media is massive. And I know Bernardo is very active on social media with the college team. I am as well. You just got to make sure you're being very clean with it and you're showing the best version of yourself.
100%. Absolutely. Okay, so we have a Q&A forum. Okay, we want to make sure that we make ourselves available. Myself, Coach JJ, Coach Matt McDougall. I know Coach Matt Bernard is here as well, but I think he's more listening in. But if you have questions for him as well. So again, there's no wrong questions. There's a couple of questions that came in already to me. I think it's to me for, privately, so I think I can kind of tackle those. I don't know if you guys did you get any? JJ, okay.
They're not able to send them within the whole group, so they're either to you or to me.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Perfect.
That's
That's fine.
I'm not that
Okay.
big time.
Okay, so again, type your questions. If you have some, there's no bad questions, and we'll kind of can keep that in the discussion. There's a question here that came in that talks about, from Ella, that says, what do we include in our updated highlight video? I think, again, just to make sure that we're very clear on that, right? You hopefully, ideally, you have a highlight video. If you don't have a highlight video, then we highly recommend that you put something together. And we're aware that right now it may be hard to find clips of games, for you to do. And hopefully eventually here in the next, bit here, we're going to be able to get some sort of inner squad stuff happening within our club, and we'll be able to provide you some games of that stuff. But for us, whether it's highlights film from your high school season, if you can get access to that, if you are, just right now, if it's just you doing some sort of individual training, that's better than nothing, because that still gives the college coach an idea on what you're doing and maybe what your qualities are. You can potentially show yourself, hitting a big ball, over distance. You can show yourself doing some sort of technical training to goal. So something is better than nothing. Ideally, it's a game. Obviously, that's going to be the best highlight video. But after you do that, I think the recommendation that we're giving here today is potentially to add more videos to a channel. You create a channel on YouTube, and now you have 5-6 different videos. So when a college coach clicks on it, instead of just going to your highlight video, it goes to your channel, and then he can select. My recommendation as well within that is that you make it very clear on the channel, right? What's a highlight video? What's a physical therapy? What's individual training? So that the coach can kind of pick and choose what he wants to see. If he wants to see a game, you can go to the game. If he wants to see a little bit more of your individual training, you can do that. For goalkeepers, I'm sure we have 3 goalkeepers, Matt, JJ, and Matt, both Matt goalkeepers. So I think goalkeepers, individual trainings are huge for you, right? Right now with no camps. I mean, I know at Sac State, we talk a lot about, bringing goalkeepers onto our camps, and to work out during camps to make sure that we can see you in action in kind of an individual kind of platform. So try to recreate that, film that, right? Get a film of that and post it on YouTube, of your individual training session. So there's a ton of stuff that you can do. I wouldn't affect the highlight video unless you have something like game-like to add to it, but I would put another video. Anything to add, guys, to that?
Yeah, I mean, let me kind of take a little bit of a turn here off of that. The other thing is there are a couple pieces you need to get taken care of as you're moving through this, and a big one for me is the NCAA Eligibility Center. And you can look online. You can Google NCAA Eligibility Center. You need to get an NCAA ID number. Once you get that taken care of, you can also put that in your emails as well. So coaches and compliance offices, if they're interested in you through the academics, they can get your academics looked at right away. So NCAA Eligibility Center, get that done. I believe it's $90 now. And it just helps the process. No matter if you're a sophomore, junior, senior, you can probably even do it as a freshman, but definitely sophomore, junior, and senior, get that done. All right. That's something you can add. And so coaches, hey, it's in their email, Eligibility Center. Maybe your unofficial transcript is on the Eligibility Center or you sent it. So then they don't have to ask for those things. You're already prepared. And then obviously the SAT and ACT score, those are tough to take right now. Obviously they don't have in-person tests. I don't think very many places. I've heard of one high school doing it right now, but as soon as those open back up, you need to get on those. You can take them as many times as you like. In the universities, I think the majority of them, if not all of them, take your best score. So if you get a high score in English on one you took 2 months ago, and then you get a higher score on math, that the second time or third time, they combine the scores, and that's going to be your score for eligibility. So, and I don't know about getting into certain schools, but definitely would help. So kind of took a side note there, but Eligibility Center.
Important reminder for sure. And that's a new thing, right? That it changed to like now charge $90, right? Because it used to be cheaper or free.
Yeah, well, it's $90 for Division 1, 2, Division 1 and 2, I believe.
Got
I
it.
think Division 3, it is not. I think it's
Or
just to
cheaper.
fill out.
Got it.
I don't know. Maybe JJ knows. Right.
It's gotten more expensive.
More expensive a little bit.
And also there, if you're financially struggling in your families, there's a waiver. So you can apply for a waiver through the NCAA, through the Eligibility Center, and sometimes they'll waive that $90 fee or at least a portion of it. I don't know how that works, but definitely, you know, many colleges and many student athletes I've seen that have gone through that process have gotten that waiver. So.
Yeah. Hey, Doogie, one question that's a follow-up here. It says, regarding the NCAA Eligibility Center, is that a must in order to get recruited, committed?
Correct, except for NAIA schools, I believe. So Division 1 through Division 3. Correct, JJ?
Yeah, it's a must. So that's why I think it's a great point to make, Matt. Like if you're just looking for something to do and you haven't done it yet, it would be fantastic to check that box, and then you could put that on the email or the information you're sending to the coaches, and then it's done. Now you have a clearinghouse number or an eligibility center number, and when you're going through the process, that's how the university they'll get all your information from that one centralized location. So and it's something you have to be cleared by the eligibility center in order to be good your freshman year.
They'll go through all of the core classes that you need to take, and they will, like JJ said, clear you for eligibility your first year, or you might have to sit out your first year depending on, you know, if you're a qualifier or not. And all that's based off of your GPA, your test scores, and the units that you have or have not completed. So make sure you're doing your due diligence and taking care of your schoolwork. Even though now it's online, maybe it's easier for some, harder for others. You need to really buckle down and make sure you take care of it. And it's not a senior year, let me take some time off type of thing. It's finish strong, because every grade point average higher, you can get academic aid, possibly at certain universities, certain academic scholarships. So when you put scholarships together, they can be athletic related aid, so straight off your soccer ability. They can be off of financial need. So if your parents and you need some financial help because of how much they make a year, and then off of the academic status in which you have obtained through your high school. And those, I mean, literally you can get a lot of money depending on what school you go to, especially private schools, great package they can put together with certain GPAs. Obviously it's above a 3.0, so.
And I'll add something to that. Just so you guys know, I mean, at the beginning of the presentation, we talked about how there's been an additional year awarded by the NCAA. So everyone's kind of sorting out university-wise what's going on with their current senior class moving forward. So that's going to determine what kind of athletic money, scholarship money a program has available, right? Whatever the decisions are made. But academically, nothing changes. That money is available no matter who comes back, who doesn't come back. So you guys need to know that the academic side of things, you guys would get awarded that even if a program had 5 seniors come back, they all wanted to play another year, so that money was all taken up, the athletic money, but you would still be awarded your academic money, whatever it was that you qualified for, if that makes sense.
A little bit real quick. The FAFSA is what you would need to fill out if your parents and you wanted to look to see if you get any need-based aid, so that you need it based off of what your parents make or don't make. And the deadline for that is in March. And I'll give you a perfect example. Student athlete at X university that I know filled it out a month late and lost out on $7,500 because he filled it out a month late, and loses out. That was free money in a grant, not a loan, in a grant. And now you're like, how do you come up with the $7,500? Well, now you're going to have to ask mom and dad for money. You're going to have to take out a loan. You're going to have to get a job. All these other things start stacking up. It becomes stressful. So make sure you are on all your deadlines. All right. That's very vital. Even when coaches give you deadlines, make sure you're on it. Because that's going to be very, very important through this process.
One thing that I think will be good, and maybe we actually have a timeline, guys. We have a timeline part of our presentation, our college recruitment presentation. We have a timeline on what things you should be getting done at what time. And we might be able to put that together or make sure to find that and potentially send that to you guys. So there are a lot of the details that we're sharing here today. Hopefully you're taking some notes, but if you're missing on one or two, then hopefully you will get that with that timeline. So I'll put a note here to send that to you guys or to your coaches, and then your coaches can share that with you. Okay, so timeline of what are the things that I need to make sure I'm getting done depending on where I'm at on my, sophomore, junior, senior year as well. I just added to Coach Matt McDougall's point, I just added the FAFSA website to the chat for those that would want to access that and take a look at that. So it's there. So if you want to click on it later and just put it as on your computer. Couple more questions here. One question says, so usually you guys recommend that we don't bring up money until later in our communication with the college, but would it be appropriate to bring it up now because of the extra year given to the seniors? That's a great question, actually. And I think this is where, obviously, the way you tie in that question is important, right? Because perception is reality, right? So if that's the first thing that you see on the email out of nowhere, out of left field, the coach is going to be like, where did that come from, right? But I think if you have been into some deeper conversations with a coach, be a phone call and an email, and it's kind of going back and forth, and there is legitimate interest, I think that is a question that you can ask by framing it appropriately, right? Based on the most recent updates, right? I'm speaking out loud, right? But if you write something like based on the recent updates of eligibility, and the extended eligibility for seniors, I'm just wondering how that affects potentially the scholarship situation for my year, right? And if you need help construct those emails, reach out to us, because we can kind of proofread that email, make sure that before you send out, it actually looks really professional, right? Or maybe that's a conversation you can have over Zoom or on the phone, depending on what the coach wants to do. But I do think that as long as there's a connection being built and that question is not coming from left field, and I think it's an appropriate question, especially under the current situation that we're facing, or the college coaches are facing.
Hey, Bernardo, there's a couple questions that have come in about video. And I just want to say, I want to talk a little bit about it from the club perspective, just so everybody's aware. We are actively working on getting some new cameras for the fields, so you guys are aware. There's some hurdles that we're trying to jump through. But by the time we get back to having either intra-club scrimmages or real games, we will have a much better video option that we can both have with us at the facility and potentially take with us on the road. So that should provide some more options for all of you guys. In the meantime, I think you should absolutely be trying to videotape everything you can. And if you want to potentially set up a camera to even tape yourself during training, I think you should speak to your coach about that, because I think it's a very good idea to start to think about doing that even now. Even though we can't do things in a perfect setting, this is a good opportunity to be able to set the camera on you and go from there.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Couple more questions. There's a question here, says, do you think that visits, official and unofficial, will become more important, or will a lot of coaches rather have us make a decision as soon as possible before seeing the campus? If you guys want to tackle that one, does anybody want to tackle that one? I can answer to that too.
I mean, I think that we would love to have everybody to come on campus, official and unofficial visits. Absolutely. Is it realistic right now? Especially, you can't do it with the dead period. So I think the communication, getting in a phone call, obviously, or a Zoom call with the coach would be vital. But also, same thing, if you go on a college campus right now and you want the coach to show you around, the coach cannot do that. You have to go on a general tour with the university, even if you cross paths with the coach, you basically can say hi and bye, if anything, but needs to move on. So, it's tough. We're hoping everything can get lifted as college coaches and we can get players on campus, but we're really going to rely also a lot on our relationships, right? We're going to rely on the relationships with club coaches around the area and lean on them and figure out, hey, is this a good fit for us? And then they would make their own decision from there. So you need to make sure that the communication is there. It's kind of where I think we're at.
And the other piece that I would add to that, which that's such good information and such a good perspective. And I feel like a lot of times you guys, the visits, I think are important for you guys, right? For you guys as players, more than even us as college coaches. Like, sure, we get to know you even better when you come onto campus, whether it's unofficial or official, but it's important for you guys to really know, hey, is this somewhere that I truly want, where I want to go, right? So like Matt's saying, we can't get you onto campus right now, or the colleges can't, but you could still go visit it. And sometimes, and it's hard, right? Like if it's in California, that might be one thing. If it's in the West Coast, maybe you can get there. If it's a little bit going across country, that might be more challenging. But the visits are very important for everybody involved. But for you guys is the main, you're the ones making that final decision. And I think majority of college coaches around the country want you to be there because you want to be there, right? So it's not easy, but again, it might be something until things are lifted, right? The dead period is finally over, or it's open back up. It may still be important enough to just go on your own to check it out, so you get a feel of it, the city, the town, but then also, the campus. The other thing that I would just want to add too, and I was going to say this earlier, look, that dead period, I know it's frustrating, right? Maybe a little deflating hearing that it might get extended out again. But if you guys notice, it's going month to month. It's not like they've set it 6 months out, right? Like it's going month to month. So at some point it's going to be lifted. We're going to be out of the dead period. Guys, some of you guys know that there's there's a handful. I mean, Matt Bernard, what are we talking? Maybe 5 to 10 spots around the country right now that are playing. It's still limited, but it's kind of slowly opening up. You guys know there's some events coming up in November, possibly winter time frame. So, that's why it's important to stay relevant, stay connected, stay involved, stay engaged with the schools you're interested in. Because even if the dead period still goes through October, what if it does open up in November, right? With some events are going on in November, then you guys want to be ready to take advantage of that, right? So that I wanted to add that again too, that piece too. That dead period is going month to month. So the NCAA is ready, I think, at some point to lift that and open it up. So.
And I know that you guys are nervous about the process, and some are like, I need to get committed. I need to make a decision. The college coaches are in the same boat, right? They're like unsettled on what's going on and trying to, sit in the offices and talk about, where are we going to look to go as soon as it opens up? What positions are we looking at? And what Bernardo talked about earlier, like, are we going to have seniors that are staying? There's a lot of questions, like JJ even just said, that are unknown. So the college coaches are battling very similar aspects of this process. So Bernardo said it in the very beginning, be patient with it, but be on top of it. Like, make sure that you're continuing your communication, but don't be like emailing coaches every single week, the same coaches blowing them up. Because honestly, it just gets pushed to the wayside. If it's every once in a while, that's going to be vital. But be patient, because coaches are going to have to be patient too.
Absolutely. Hopefully that question got answered. And if that question wasn't answered, you can always follow up later. There's another one. Are college coaches going to respond to the emails or just look at them? I think that obviously depends on the rules, right? If you're a 2021 graduate or a 2022 graduate, they can respond. I think some coaches decide not to respond. Some, I actually had a conversation with a player today that she got a response that was pretty generic. It was more of a generic response, like a camp response. And so I think deciphering through what is a camp response, what is a legitimate response of interest, I think those are always conversations that you can always have with your coach or with myself, with Coach Matt McDougall, Coach Matt Bernard, Coach JJ. You can always share that email with us. And now we kind of have this process where we're club coaches, but we're also college coaches. So we understand the perspective, and we can help you differentiate between what is a really like a high interest email or what is just a camp email. So, but regardless, getting an email is always great because that means that there's an acknowledgement of that there's a receipt right on the other end. But I think, I think it's, hopefully you get a response. If you don't get a response, I would continue. If it's a school that's really on your list, that you continue to email them, like Coach Doogie said, not a lot, but once in a while you continue to email. And if at some point you're like, I haven't gotten a response in, a year, then you probably know that, okay, maybe that's not going to be an option soccer-wise for me to go there, right? And that's okay. There's plenty of other options that you can look at. Are they going to respond or just look at them? I think you're probably going to get a little bit of both. Another question here. What are your opinions on soccer accounts on Instagram? I think that is it's a similar conversation that, that we just had about, Twitter or YouTube channel. For us, I think college coaches, they look at things pretty much the same. It's another social media platform, another opportunity to see you, and watch you play. And be able to follow your profile. I want to stress, Coach Matt McDougall's message about social media. You got to be very conscientious of what you're putting out there. If it's just a soccer account, how many other accounts do you have, right? I mean, you have a soccer account, a personal account, another account, and then another account. And then it kind of looks weird how many accounts you have. So maybe it's a better decision to maybe go to YouTube, right? You have a channel there, and that becomes your soccer channel, right? But if it's just you have your own personal account, Instagram account, and you have your soccer account, I think that's fine. You see that quite a bit, some people doing that. But it's similar to having a Twitter account. Just be very conscientious of what you're liking, retweeting, posting, whatever that looks like, right? Putting on the story, following, everything that kind of revolves around that world of social media. But I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts on that.
Not really. I'll just give an example real quick that as where I have been coaching, there's been, I would say, a handful of players, at least 5. I know one that was offered pretty darn good money, almost a full scholarship, that was taken off of the table because of social media. And it was brutal. It was tough for us to do, tough for him to hear, but it wasn't what we envisioned our program or the program I was at looking like. And so we made a decision that we didn't want that in our culture, and we moved on. So be very careful. Obviously, I said don't be scared, but just think about, when you're posting stuff or even doing stories and stuff, if a coach sees this, is it good? And it's vital. And I don't hover on the social media a ton, but I do check it, and I do check on my current players as well.
Yeah.
Even in the club, I catch them on my club players.
One common expression that we use, with our college recruitment talks, is, would your grandma approve of it? Right. And so your grandmother, thinks of you very, in a very pure, like you're just this pure human being that can do no wrong, and she loves you so dearly. And so if you think about that, would my grandma approve of what I'm posting? Because then it talks really about your character and what image you're portraying out there. So that's a little cool, funny way to kind of put it together in your head, right? So be conscientious of that. And again, we're here to help you through that. But if you have doubts, it probably shouldn't be posting if you're having doubts. But yeah, that's our opinion about the soccer accounts. But I think that there's some value to it, especially with the time that we're living in right now and the needing to reach out in different ways to the college coaches. Any other questions? I don't know, Matt. Did you get any more, Matt?
There's one that came in, and I'll paraphrase, but basically it said throughout the process they were focused on playing at the university that they really wanted to go to, but right now it doesn't look like there's going to be any potential roster spots. Can you guys talk through the process about potentially having walk-ons or people who were unrecruited that maybe show up and what that looks like? Because I know it's a little bit different each place, but I don't know if you guys want to touch on that.
I think it's important, obviously, if that's the school that you really want to go to academically, socially, for whatever reason, and that's the school that you connected, that communication happens as soon as you can to the coach. And then the coach can tell you kind of what the different processes are, because there are schools that, allow walk-on tryouts in the fall, right when the season's about to begin, and they allow you to come out. There are schools that potentially wait until the spring to have those walk-on tryouts. And, that means they would be like later in January, February. So when the soccer season in the fall was done. But I think obviously with COVID-19 right now and all the stuff that's happening, if that question came from a senior, you gotta think about, okay, what's going to happen? What does this look like? What does the world look like right now in terms of the groups that are restricted and stuff like that? But I think as soon as you have that feeling, okay, that's the school that I want to go to, the roster spots have been filled, having some sort of communication with a coach, expressing that you would like potentially to do a walk-on tryout and see what the possibilities are and kind of what the process is for that specific program. Because like Coach Matt Bernard said, I think it varies from school to school and different coaches have different perspectives of it. But it's definitely out there. Definitely possibilities out there.
I would also add that I think it's really important that you let them know, even if you're not going to be able to play with them in the fall, that you're there, because you never know. I can say from my own personal experience, we had a moment when I was coaching at Sonoma State where we knew there was another goalkeeper on campus that wasn't playing. And we went and said, do you want to play? Because we have some injuries and we need somebody.
Absolutely.
So just.
And also there's different roster spot opportunities. Some universities in a normal season, I don't know how it's looking now with COVID right now with this, but offer say, hey, can't get you on the team, we're full for the fall. Opportunity in the spring could be an opportunity to prove yourself, and it could be 3 months to prove yourself instead of a tryout in the fall that's only a couple days, a week, and they don't really get to know you as well. So a spring opportunity, typical spring, not this spring, typical spring could be a full 3 months to prove yourself and find a spot, as long as you've continued with that communication. Now, if that's something that happens and they offer you a spring spot, don't go the entire fall and not communicate with the coach. Don't not show up to the games. You need to show up to their office. You need to show up to games. You need to make sure they know you're there. Make sure you're continued interest. You got to continue to sell yourself, all right, but not in a bugging up front in their face type of way, but just continuing showing genuine interest in the program and what you're doing. And if you get in that situation, you're also going to need to find games or trainings somewhere else on campus or off campus to keep yourself sharp. So when you do get your opportunity, you are prepared.
The only thing I would add to that is what you just said, Matt. So if you're in that situation, because it does happen, the program that I was previously at, we had a kid come in that was a local kid that was at a D2 school, transferred into the school that I was at. We didn't even know she was there in the fall. We got her out in the spring, and you know what? The first impression that she made on us was that she was fit and she was ready to go. I mean, she came in and made an impact right away from day one. And the following fall, she turned into one of our starting backs. So again, she had experience. She went from transferring from a D2 school to a D1 school, but through that whole entire fall season, she found a way to make sure she was fit and ready to go as well. So if you get that opportunity, you can't just kind of coast and glide through the fall. You got to make sure just, expect to be ready over the winter and then jump in January. The ideal thing to do is find a way to be self-motivated and stay engaged and stay ready to go when you get that chance in January.
And it proves to the current players that are on the team that you're in. that you want a spot, that you want to compete, that you want maybe their spot, and then you get more respect that way through the men's game and the women's game. I know that's got to be it, because when you show that you're prepared, that you've done things, you're crushing the fitness test, you're sharp, they can't say, oh, look at this person that's brand new, not, you know, why'd they bring this person in or whatever. No, you came in and you proven yourself by what you do. All you, Bernardo or Matt?
Yeah.
If there's no other questions, we'll wrap it up unless Bernardo, JJ, or Jugi have anything else to add.
I think the last thing that I would add before Bernardo closes it out is that we do have some college panel links that we will be sending out through Matt. Bernardo will get it out possibly through BIGA that Bernardo and I did over the beginning part of COVID that did have other college coaches on the panel. And we asked, we did a Q&A with them, and I think Cal's on there, Santa Clara's on there.
Sorry, dude, you're right here.
There you go. Yeah.
So if you guys if you go on YouTube and you type San Juan Soccer Club and you click on videos, you'll be able to see, here's the girls virtual college coaches, here's the boys virtual college coach. There's a ton of cool stuff, guys, that we've done over the quarantine that's college coach related. Some of other speakers that kind of came through that time. But yes, a ton of great stuff right there, a ton of great information. And we had players, we had coaches. Is the players one's not here, correct? You don't see it, right, Matt?
No, but I'll share it in the link. You know what? I need to. You know what I'll do? I'll make it public now because we kept it private for a while.
Perfect.
So I'll make it public now. That's a good one for sure.
Yeah, so we did one with the coaches, everybody. A virtual college coaches just for the girls, and with one for the boys, you know. And then we did one with alumni, players, and parents that kind of offered a good perspective on different college stuff and their pathway in college. And it talked specifically about this time period as well, and the difficulties and their advice, you know, to you all about things like that. So absolutely a great resource for all of you. So again, if there are any questions, there's time for one more question. Is anybody that didn't get their question answered that would like to ask anything just by unmuting yourselves? Are you good to go? Awesome.
And if not, you can always reach out to us on the field, or our emails obviously are on the website. So I appreciate everybody today.
Yeah, absolutely, you guys. We're here for you guys. And again, ask questions. We're here for you, all of us. Okay, so we're here as resources. So anybody that you will feel more comfortable with. All right. Thank you all for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, girls. See you later. Bye, boys. Boys and girls.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job, fellas. Thanks. Later.
Perfect, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you.